Leonard Allen Cure. Leonard Allen Cure. Leonard Allen Cure. Welcome to my world where all is well. I'm the thinker who thinks the thoughts that create the things. I'm also the proud Queen Chief of Three Kings. Leonard Allen Cure was an exonerated black man. He was killed during a traffic stop for speeding. He was pulled over in Camden County. I saw the video. I was not on scene. I don't know what was going through the officer's head, but the first thing that I heard from the video that I saw coming out of the officer's mouth or deputy was "Step out, get out." I'm a former officer. I'm no longer an officer. I was terminated by discrimination. But when I went to the academy, I also want to say I did 13 years in law enforcement. I have a bachelor's in forensic psychology. I don't consider myself an expert at anything. The one thing that I know for sure is that I know nothing. But based on my knowledge, skills, abilities, and from what I was taught in the police academy, when we come up on the scene to a traffic stop, now he pulled them over. He said he was going 100 miles per hour. He also advised for reckless driving. I understand, but there was no part in the video that would make me believe that this was a felony stop. In the state of Georgia, I do not believe that reckless driving or speeding is a felony. It's unknown to me whether he had warrants or was a felon. He was exonerated after spending, I think, 20, I can't remember. He spent some years in Florida in jail. Wrongfully, he spent 16 years in the Florida jail, wrongfully convicted, got out, exonerated, and received $800,000 from Florida. He just bought a home in Fairburn, Georgia, and I guess he was on his way back to Florida or coming back from Florida. Anyway, he was speeding, pulled over by Camden County. First thing they say is "Step out, get out." From Georgia Post, Peace Officer Standards and Training at the Police Academy. This is what I was taught. I'm only going to tell you what I was taught. When we conduct a traffic stop, we approach the driver. Now on the highway, I normally approach from the passenger side, but he approached from the driver's side. I ain't saying nothing is wrong with that. First thing he says is "Step out, get out." It's far different from what I was taught and what I would do. I believe he already made a very nervous situation for a black man who has already spent 16 years of his life in jail as an innocent man. I'm sure he was already nervous and probably had some anxiety or fear over the police. And if that's the case, in my opinion, Mr. Cure should not have been speeding at all. But maybe he was in a hurry, who knows? But all of us speed. I speed when I was driving. I no longer drive. Anyway, he got pulled over for speeding. The officer says "Step out, get out." The officer did not approach the vehicle and say, "I'm Officer Smith with the ABC Police Department. The reason why I'm pulling you over is for super speeding. You was doing 100 miles an hour in a 50 mile per hour speed limit. It was on I-95. The speed was probably 70, something like that. Instead, he escalated the situation by saying "Step out, get out." Had the driver, come out the vehicle. So now, based on his action, you're going to get that same energy back as a reaction. I personally believe all of this could have been avoided if he would approach Mr. Kerr and said, "Hey, I'm Officer Smith with ABC Police Department. You're getting pulled over for super speeding. May I have your driver's license, registration?" Most of the time, we already know that information before we pull you over. And see if Mr. Kerr would have complied or not at that time. But by you being aggressive and hostile and escalating the situation, upon your approach, it was hostile. I'm sure he's not the first driver you've ever pulled over going over 100 miles per hour. And I'm sure he's probably not going to be the last one if you happen to stay in law enforcement. And Mr. Officer, Mr. Deputy, thank you for your service. I appreciate you. I really do. I don't wish any hurt, harm, danger, death to come upon you. I really do. To all the officers at the Camden County Police Department or Sheriff's Department, I wish you all the best. I don't wish any hurt, harm, danger, death to come upon you. But a man's life has been taken, and I just wanted to give my commentary on it. I have the right to do so, just like you. We have the right to agree and or disagree. It's your choice, and it's my choice. But I feel he escalated the situation. The officer got back in exchange the same energy that he was giving the driver. Mr. Kerr got out the vehicle, and the first thing he said, "Well, who are you?" I don't know if the vehicle was a marked vehicle or not. I know it had lights on it. I don't know if it had, I can't recall. I believe it had sirens, and I'm sure it had sirens if it had lights on it, but I pray it was a marked vehicle. He told the driver, Mr. Kerr, to step to the back of the vehicle, put his hands on the truck. He immediately, once Kerr got out, I did see him pull his hand back when the officer tried to grab him. Kerr probably put his hand back because he don't know why the officer is grabbing him. "Mr. Officer, why were you grabbing him? Why did you put hands on him? You didn't say, 'Step out, get out, you're under arrest.' You just said, 'Step out, get out.'" So then when he pulled his hand back, you immediately grabbed your taser out. Now, I could see his hands clearly, Mr. Kerr's hand. So to me, he was not a threat. Was his skin color a threat? Would this traffic stop would have been different if he was of another color? I don't know, Mr. Officer. Just some questions that I have for you. I'm not sure, but you're probably out on administrative leave right now. You deserve the time off that they give you to think about your actions. Unfortunately, Mr. Kerr doesn't have any time off. His time has ended. I believe if your approach would have been different, and it would have been the way we were trained to approach traffic stops, that Mr. Kerr would have been alive. I believe it's escalated. I don't believe that any officer in Georgia was trained on a traffic stop to approach any vehicle with any driver and say, "Step out, get out." Even on felony stops, we don't approach the vehicle. On felony stops, we are trained to have the driver to come back towards us and to walk backwards, lift their shirt up, turn around with the hands up. So this is not in a textbook appropriate traffic stop. And then Mr. Kerr, of course, he tells the officers he ain't doing shit. When he tells the officer his name, the officer says, "I don't care." So it's just two men. I don't know if their egos got involved or what, but I definitely believe within my heart that this would have went way differently if it was not escalated from the beginning. It's a chain reaction. You get back the same energy you put out there. You approaching if anybody approached me, I don't drive, but if I were driving yesterday, and an officer approached me and said, step out, now me, I'm going to comply and pray I survive it. But I'm sure while I'm complying, just like the officer can use loud verbal commands, I'm going to be using loud verbal commands. Hey, get me back up. Get me somebody, especially if he's hostile like that. I'm going to be doing what you're saying. But I'm going to make sure that I'm going to get everybody. Now, a breach truck pulled up and pulled behind him. Now, okay, before we get to the breach truck, okay, so the first words I hear the officer say is step out, get out. I don't know who trains anybody to do that. I don't know what the training is in Camden County. But if it's a Georgia Post certified police department, then, or accredited police department, then I have reason to believe that the training is the same. But anyway, he get him to come back to the back of the truck, put his hands on the truck to conduct an arrest. Now, again, if it were me, I already told you how I would have approached. I would have said, Officer Smith, ABC Police Department, the reason why I pulled you over, you was doing 100 miles per hour and 50 mile per hour speed zone. Is there a reason why you were speeding? He gonna say I wasn't speeding, I was speeding, or kiss my ass, or whatever he want to say. I done heard it all. And I said, okay, give me your driver's license and your registration. He would have complied or would have not complied. If he would have complied, I would have got the driver's license and wrote him a citation and a super speeder citation, reckless driver citation, and sent him on his way. If he would not have complied, I would have, radio sending me back up. I would have kept my eyes on him. I would have told him to keep his hands on the steering wheel or the dashboard, but I would not have tried to effect an arrest or put anybody in handcuffs without another officer on scene. I was actually trained this in the police academy. The worst time or the most volatile time an officer is at danger or is in danger during a traffic stop is number one, the highway, of course, and two, at the point when you have to make an arrest. When I worked at my former police agency, when any officer was on the interstate, there was no arrest made until backup got there. We can wait this out all day. If the other officers was busy, I'm not going nowhere. You're not going nowhere because you are being temporarily detained right now for this traffic stop for a reasonable amount of time. I can write a warrant if I have to let you go and something else come up. I already know who you are. Okay, so I don't know why he tried to put him in handcuffs if he was there by himself. But backup wasn't. He could have just had him stay there with his hands on the back of the truck, and said, "Look, start me another unit," and waited till that unit arrived, and then they could have put Mr. Cure in handcuffs. Now he tries. Mr. Cure's now in the back of the truck, his hands on the truck. He tells him to put his hands behind his back, or he's going to tase him. Mr. Cure failed to follow this officer's commands. So he takes the taser out and tases him. Mr. Cure then decides to become non-compliant and decides to attack the officer. I do not recommend anybody, anywhere, at any time to do this. So Mr. Cure began to fight the officer. I don't know if Mr. Cure was able to get his hands on the officer's taser or any of his weapons. But in this situation, in my mind, that doesn't matter, because if that was me as the officer and Mr. Cure coming after me, even though I have already made a mistake by escalating the situation, by not waiting on backup, and by already threatening to tase you, have you get out the car, put your hands on the truck, even after me doing all of these things that I perceive to be not consistent with doing the best version of things that's best for all parties involved. Even after all of that, after everything that I may have done in the wrong matter, in the wrong way, you come after any weapon on me. Now I feel like my life is in danger, even though I have put you in a hostile situation, and I have you all hostile towards me because of my actions. Once you come after me, I now feel like my life is in danger, and I am going to pull my weapon and pray I don't have to use deadly force. But I have to do it, then that's what is going to happen. Now, Mr. Cure was, I think, called him the B word or something like that. And right after that, I believe that's when he was fatally wounded. After that, the Brinks truck back up. I believe a armed security from the Brinks truck come out, ask him if he's okay. He has his weapon pointed towards towards Mr. Cure. The officer is seen leaning over the hood of his truck, still saying "stay down" with his gun down. I believe we were supposed to render aid after we shoot anyone or fatally wound someone. Now the officer did look tired because he had to literally fight for his life. I don't want to say this officer caused this, where he had to fight for his life, but I can say that this officer could have handled this in a better way. I'm not here to blame the officer or Mr. Cure for this incident. Two wrongs does not make one right. But seeing the video, I wanted to do a video about the video because I saw some areas where all of this could have been avoided and a human being could have been alive today. I believe there's a serious issue with discrimination and racism in these police departments. I really do. I have no idea if this officer is racist or discriminatory towards black people at all. As far as I know, he could be married to a black woman. I know nothing about this officer, but it makes me wonder if the driver was a white person, would it have gone the same way? Now, I have no way of knowing if he could tell the skin color of the driver before his approach. Maybe they got him recorded on other video body cam footage doing traffic stops that way to everybody. I don't know, but it's improper, and now somebody's life has got lost. And if the police department know that this is the way that this police officer has been conducting traffic stops and they have failed to do something about that, then I do blame Camden County for this, because he needed to be put in FTO or remedial training immediately if he has a history of conducting traffic stops like this. If he has a history of doing this, then it wasn't a matter of time before somebody's life is going to get lost. There's no matter what anybody has done, police officers, we are trained to de-escalate situations, not escalate situations. You don't make the whole. It reminds me one time I was working a call. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't a traffic stop, but it was somebody called they needed the police at their home. I think it was a disturbance, something like that. I cannot remember. I was the first officer on scene. It was before I became a sergeant. I was just a regular officer. The people were outside, so of course backup was en route. But I came on scene. I said, okay, look, just everybody calm down. I promise you I'm here to listen to everybody. Now, the only officer on scene, I had everybody calm. My backup arrived, Mr. Big Bad Guy. Big and bad guy. He wasn't a bad guy. But, this particular officer was not a bad officer at all. But he comes on scene, wanted to be big and bad for whatever reason, and totally escalate the situation, get them hollering and screaming at each other again. I mean, his whole demeanor, the tone, him yelling at them, we was just having a regular conversation before this officer arrived. So I stepped back. I said, okay, you can handle it. I had them all calm before you arrived. I really did. I stepped back. I didn't say no. I didn't do anything else. I just let him handle the whole entire call. We all have to do better. We all have to do better. Now, I don't know if it's true, but I heard that the family has already retained Attorney Benjamin Crump to help them out in this case. I can't tell you whether or not it's going to be a good case or a bad case. The way I see it, Mr. Cure did go after and attack the officer. I don't want to say that the officer caused Mr. Cure to do this. I don't want to say Mr. Cure could have easily complied. The man was just exonerated after spending 16 years after a wrongful conviction. It was just a bad opportunity for either one of them to ever have met each other under these circumstances. He had just bought a house in Fairburn, Georgia. I guess he was going back to Florida for whatever reasons, but it's just a sad situation. But to Mr. Leonard Allan Cure, family and friends and loved ones, I'm praying for your comfort and strength. I just wanted to give my commentary as a former officer, as a former black female lesbian officer, as to if it was me pulling him over, how I would have personally handled the situation. I'm not saying that the Camden County officer was right or wrong. I have no idea what he was thinking. I saw the video. It touched me. I just wanted to give my commentary on how I would have handled it. But Camden County, like I said, I wish you all the best. To the citizens in Camden County who are dependent on the Camden County Police Department or Sheriff Office to serve and protect you, I pray that you still will be able to depend on them to serve and protect you. But if not, just try to comply and just ask for a backup. Just like the police can ask for backup, citizens just ask for backup, especially if you're a minority. Well, this is a sad situation. Two wrongs doesn't make one right, and in this situation, I can see errors on both parties involved, and I can see how both parties involved could have done things differently. But with that being said, none of this is going to bring Mr. Cure back. We just, at the least, we need to learn from this and do better. Thank you so much for liking. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for turning on that notification bell. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank God for you. All is well. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And may my whole life prove that God is good.